All right, everybody. Good morning. Welcome. Great to see you here. Hope you're warming up after your little refreshing experience in the security line. My name is Maureen Conway. I'm a vice president at the Aspen Institute and executive director of the Economic Opportunities Program. And it is my very great honor to welcome you to our third Employee Ownership Ideas Forum. On behalf of our team at the Aspen Institute and the team at our partners at Rutgers University's Institute for the Study of Employee Ownership and Profit Sharing, I'm delighted to welcome you, and I really very much want to thank our sponsors, our partners, at JP Morgan Chase, at Prudential Financial, at the Ford Foundation, and at the Sorensen Impact Foundation. We're so grateful for your support and partnership in this work, and we couldn't do it without you. Also, a huge thanks to Senator Chris Van Hollen and his team for arranging for us to get this room, and to Blake Moore and his team for arranging for us to have our reception this evening in Rayburn Cafe. Please join us for that afterwards. I also want to mention, I had hoped to welcome our live stream audience, but apparently we're having a few technical difficulties right now, but we are recording this event, and hopefully we'll be live streaming it eventually. So just want to make everybody aware that the event is being recorded. This year is our third year in doing the Employee Ownership Ideas Forum. And I'm so excited to do it. And I just want to say, for the Economic Opportunities Program, our mission is to advance promising policies, strategies, and ideas to help low and moderate income people connect to and thrive in a changing economy. And that's our sort of little mission statement, right? And I've been doing this work for 25 years. We've worked on a lot of different kinds of strategies. But I have to say, employee ownership is one of the strategies that I think just has the most promise for really fulfilling that mission, for really giving people the kinds of opportunities that help them build solid livelihoods, that help them build futures, that help them have the kind of participation in an economy that they're looking for. It's been great partnering with our colleagues at Rutgers for longer than the 3 years we've been doing this. Been working with Joseph for a number of years now. I'm not going to count them all. And I just want to say, in the research that I've seen and in the many examples that we've seen, we've really seen the power of employee ownership play out again and again. We've seen how employee ownership can really transform the experience of work for working people, right? So giving them really a sense of a stake in the company, right? So giving them really that feeling that what they do matters, right? So we've spent a lot of time thinking about what makes a good job for people, and people are looking, yes, of course, for pay that they can live on. But they're also looking for their work to be respected and to matter, and they're looking for sort of a future, right? So not just like a paycheck today, but something where they really see a future for themselves. And I think real employee-owned companies really give that experience to their workforce. At the same time, we hear from so many business leaders about how they built these businesses and really the meaningfulness of their business, and how they've just become advocates for this. So I think employee ownership really also transforms the experience of management and being a business leader in a way that makes business leaders, they keep showing up to talk about how great this is. So it really does seem to be something that they feel very strongly about and really feel helps them run a good business in all senses of the word. The other thing that has been coming up has been the ways in which employee-owned companies are good for communities. And this isn't something that I think when I started in this I was necessarily looking for, but I kept hearing examples of different ways that worker owners feel encouraged to participate in the civic life of their communities. So this is why we at the Economic Opportunities Program are so passionate about this, because we feel like it's just the trifecta. It's good for workers, it's good for business, it's good for communities. Just want to share a little bit about that. I'll also say, not that I want to comment on the stock market so much at this point in time, But I feel like it's when we think about our measures of economic success and we think about how this country has progressed, right? We are we really are proud of sort of being the richest country in the world, right? And yet when we look at sort of the wealth that has been generated by business and we look at sort of the stock market, we see that 90% of the value of that stock market is held by the 10% of richest households, right? And 50% of American households really don't participate at all. So this lopsided sort of benefit of business success is one of the reasons that we sort of lead OECD countries in income inequality and wealth inequality and lag in terms of economic and social mobility. This is really contrary to our vision of what the American dream is and should be. So I feel like in this time, it's even more important for us to figure out what are the policies, what are the strategies, what are the ideas that are really going to help us spread the promise of employee ownership to more communities all across the country. And I am excited that you all are here and to hear from our speakers today. We are going to hear from business leaders, worker owners, policymakers, and experts. And so I'm just going to say, let's get started. And now I get to turn the mic over to my friend and colleague, Joseph Blasi, who is our national treasure in all things employee ownership. So Joseph, let me turn it over to you.
Well, I just want to thank Maureen, who has been a wonderful friend and colleague, and Rutgers and Aspen have been wonderful brothers and sisters in launching what, as you know now, has become the enduring policy dialogue event in Washington, D.C. I want to welcome you. My name is Joseph Blasi. I'm director of the Institute for the Study of Employee Ownership and Profit Sharing at Rutgers, and the J. Robert Beister professor. I want to thank you for coming and welcome you on behalf of Rutgers and Aspen again, and give you just a little history gift. Since we are in this august institution, our country has gone on for hundreds of years. It's especially important to realize sort of the deep history that shares for workers represent. The very first economic policy legislation signed by the first president of the United States, George Washington, had a significant part of it dealing with shares for workers. During the American Revolution, the British identified economic warfare as one of their approaches, and they knew that the cod fishing industry, which packed cod and dried it in barrels and sent it to Europe, you may not have known this, was one of the top export industries of the young colonies. And they did everything they could do to destroy the ships, arrest the sailors, get rid of the captains, get rid of the factories on the coast. When President Washington started the presidency, he called in Thomas Jefferson. You can't make this up, actually. Called in Thomas Jefferson, who was then Secretary of State, and said, we have to bring the cod industry back. Jefferson, who you know did not get along with Secretary of the Treasury Alexander Hamilton, asked Secretary Hamilton to assign him a research assistant who was a young political economist to assign to him, who went out and did research, visited cod ships, visited shippers, visited workers, and found out that the cod ships that used profit sharing and a share of the catch were more productive and more stable in their employment. The first economic research done on shares in U.S. history by a staff member of Alexander Hamilton and a research assistant to Thomas Jefferson. This then made it into legislation, and they essentially gave something equivalent to tax credits to new ships that were built that would bring back the cod industry. Interestingly enough, the tax credits were split between the owners of the ships, and at that time the owners of the ships were doctors and lawyers. People had a lot of extra capital who invested in shares of ships, and and a large amount of the tax credit was paid in cash to the workers. This was managed up and down the Atlantic seacoast by Secretary of Treasury Alexander Hamilton's staff. Okay, many of them, in a lot of those, you now know them as the most famous seafood restaurants that are in the customs houses up and along the Atlantic, the Atlantic coast. The condition of receiving the tax credit was that every member of the crew, from the cabin boy and girl up to the captain, received cash profit sharing on the catch, and before every ship went out, there was a signed document signed by the captain and every member of the crew, from the young cabin boy or girl up to the captain. I will tell you that the cook and the captain got really good profit shares. So this went on for many presidential administrations. It was completely nonpartisan and bipartisan policy. It endured until the fishing industry was largely automated in the 1800s. So the notion that shares for workers is an important part of economic policy, is an important part of tax policy, has been one of the most enduring ideas, bipartisan in American history, is really there. I did a lot of research. I went to the National Archives. I went into Alexander Hamilton's personal archives to find evidence on this. I then did something that professors love to do. I went to archives in libraries and shipping museums up and down the Atlantic coast. And there I found that in addition to the profit sharing, the workers developed a secondary equity shares market in ownership shares in the ships and the boats themselves. So, we've talked about research showing that about 70% of ESOP companies provide also cash profit sharing. ESOPs have reunited the marriage between equity ownership and cash profit sharing that we saw in the late 1700s in the United States. So this is a very proud part of U.S. history. You can go to the National Archives and you can actually get copies of those signed documents with all the signatures from the cabin boy and girl up to all the members of the ship. So anyway, just delighted to share that little story with you.